Okay, family, like it's some serious business around here today. I think back to becoming an entrepreneur, and I don't even know if I was really ready to be an entrepreneur, to be honest. I don't think I really knew what all it was going to entail. That's just me being very honest with you guys. I really don't know if I knew what it was going to entail. So what I decided today is to break down what it's like and the pros and cons of being an entrepreneur and the pros and cons of being in corporate America. So if that's something that you're interested in, stick around because this video is for you. Ah! Hey family, working is biblical. God worked and then he rested. So he placed Adam and Eve in the garden to work it and to take care of it. But you know what? Being an entrepreneur is also biblical. Think about Jacob. He's a third-generation businessman. He began his career with a promise to tithe. He negotiated his contract to work for Laban. I mean, there's so many examples of being an entrepreneur in the Bible. So today, let's talk about the pros and cons of working in corporate America or being an entrepreneur. I'm going to try to remember a lot of the things that happened and give you guys a little bit of my insight. But the number one thing that I would say is a pro for working in corporate America is a steady paycheck, right? I mean, you always know when your check is coming, you know how much it's gonna be. There's no problem there, right? You know you're gonna get it. There's also benefits that come with that, health benefits. A lot of companies have things like EAP programs and 401k matching and things of that nature. So, there are some definite financial benefits to working in corporate America, right? On the other side of that coin, on the flip side of that coin, the con in terms of financially is, from what I remember, there's always a ceiling to how much you can make, right? In human resources, they call they call it a salary band. And so for a specific salary band, it may start at, let's say, 50,000 and go to 70,000. So you can be somewhere in that area, but that's it. That's your salary. I mean, that it's capped, unless you receive bonuses or something like that. Whereas on one side of the coin, it's great because you're going to get the check every week or every 2 weeks or by month, bi-weekly, whatever. The other part to that is that it's limited, right? Now, if you're happy in your pay structure, then that's not a problem for you. But if you are looking for, I want to make more money, right? Then if your salary is what it is, then that's your life, right? That's what you can pay for. That's what you can afford. Then that's your life, right?
Show me the money. I need to feel you, Jerry. Show me the money. Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money.
The second thing I would say are a pro for being in corporate America, as I can remember, is that it's very structured. It's very structured. There are defined roles. Okay. I remember being like, that's not my job. That's your job. Do your job. I'm gonna do my job. It's over here. You do your job over there. So there were clearly defined roles and responsibilities for people depending on their title and their job description. That, in my mind, was a big pro in corporate America. The thing about it was that you could clock in at a specific time and then you would clock out. Ideally. Now, everybody's job is not like that. Some people take their work home with them. I definitely did. So I'm not saying that that's the only way to go. What I'm saying is that ideally, you do have work hours. Ideally, you have work hours. There is a career ladder that you can climb in corporate America. Some companies even have what they call a career track, right? So they'll have it clearly stated as to what courses you need to complete in order to move up, or what metrics you have to meet in order to be able or be eligible for a promotion, right? So it's clearly defined paths and structure. So I felt like, for me anyway, that was a pro when I was in corporate America. I appreciated understanding the structure of the organization. I appreciated having an org chart. I appreciated knowing whose job it was to do certain things. Because if it wasn't my job to do it, I probably did it anyway. Honestly. I was an overachiever. I know. I was giving away for free. I know. So on the con side of that, there is limited control that you as the employee can have on the company, right? There's limited control. You can't control the org chart. You don't make that specification. They control that. You know what I mean? So there's limited control that you would have, even though it's organized, there's still limited control on your part. You don't have a say. You won't have a say in the company direction. I mean, unless you're at the very top tier of the company, you can't say, you know what? I don't think we should have that product anymore. Unless you are the product development person that's making the decision in terms of that. You can't say that. You know, if you work at Publix, you don't get a say in what hours they're going to be open. That's just, you're a worker, right? Most people are workers, right? And so I guess what I'm saying is that you have limited control, right? There may be organization, it may be organized, and there may be clear lines, and there may be some clear details in terms of your job description, but you have limited control. And so to say that you have limited control, the leadership is really going to affect your life. It will affect your life in ways that you never could have imagined. I remember in 2008, when there was the big economic downturn, I was a manager at that particular time. And I just remember my manager having to make some serious decisions on who was going to keep their job and who was going to lose their job. That's heavy. That's heavy to have that decision to make, because people have families that they have to feed. I mean, listen, it's tough. And if you're one of those people that's affected, again, you have limited control in the decision making. So to me, that's a con. That to me is a con. Okay. So next on the list is, I'm a people person, and externally I'm a people person. I feel like I'm not, but people tell me that I'm a people person. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So as a people person in corporate America, you have teams, you have a team environment, you have built-in relationships with people that your coworkers that you will, have all around you. So I think that's a pro. Like if you have a question and you're not exactly sure, how to do what you need to get done, you can literally pick up the phone and say, hey, X, Y, and Z, I'm looking for this or that, and someone will help you. There might be a help desk, or there might be someone who's done it before, or there might be even a mentor or someone at your job that they have structured out for you to contact for help, which is amazing. It's built into the company. I think that's a pro in my mind. That's a pro. I mean, some of my coworkers And some of my team from previous jobs that I've had are some of my best friends to this day. So I just feel like it's kind of like it's a built-in family. It's a built-in community. So I think that's a pro. But on the other side of that, it's also a con because you don't get to pick those people. You can't pick them. So one of the biggest pros I feel from my time in corporate America, one of the biggest pros was the fact that there was professional development. I really love that. I love that I could sit down with someone and say, I want your job. Like, I want to get on a track to get your job. Or there was professional development, in meaning that there was trainings that you could take, and all the while you're getting paid, right? Just think about maybe, when you first start a job and they're like, okay, well, come in for training and they're going to pay you for that. That's professional development. Whether you keep that job past 2 weeks or not, you're getting paid to take on professional development trainings. I mean, I think that's a big, huge benefit of working in corporate America from my standpoint. I remember a time when I took different trainings and it really helped me get the next job. I said what I said. It helped me get the next job. So, if you're in corporate America and you're not taking advantage of the corporate trainings, you're doing yourself a disservice. You really are. Professional development is a huge benefit. Everyone should take advantage of professional development. It's there for a reason. Sometimes companies will pay you to even get certified for certain things. When my husband was in corporate America, he actually was certified to go and learn the systems that his company was utilizing. Now, he learned, he was certified, he became certified, I believe he became certified in 4 or 5 different avenues or aspects of that system. Now, after a certain time period, once he had fulfilled the company's duties in terms of being in the company and utilizing what his training taught him in that certification, he was then allowed to leave the company and was able to make a ton more money just outside the company than inside the company with that certification. That's a benefit in my mind. That's a benefit. That was one of the reasons that we even got together. That's another story for another time, but I was, recruiting. I'll tell you a little bit. I was recruiting and I told my husband that there was going to be some big opportunities that were going to come in this space for hospitals and for the medical community, and that he should get trained on some software that they were going to be rolling out. And so he did. He actually went, got trained, got certified in what they call Epic, which was the software that the hospital was going to be implementing. And so he was trained in it. He got several certifications and he was able to go all over the country and work at other hospitals while they were implementing those systems. So on the other side of corporate development, the company then would decide when you were eligible for a promotion, right? So corporate development, career development, but then on the flip side of that, they decide when you're ready for promotion. They decide when you will achieve the next role, right? You think you're working, you think you're going along and everything is great, and in your mind, you've attained everything that was needed on paper to reach that goal. Well, you don't make that decision. They decide when you're going to get a promotion, right? They decide if you have exhibited the skills of that professional development. They decide whether or not you have fulfilled all of the metrics. So, there are pros. You do get the professional development and you can take advantage of it. But there are cons. They decide when they're going to pay you for all of that new learning that you've done, right? Okay, we're back. Now let's talk about some of the other cons to being in corporate America. Okay, I had to close the door because the dryer is on. Okay, so another con could be that you can burn out. Sometimes you can get a lot of stress from a job, and the expectations from the job is that they're paying you, and so you are expected to continue working, continue, doing everything that you have to do in order to get paid. But as for me, I know I burned out. I burnt out so bad. I was working in recruiting for, Jesus, 20 something years, maybe 23 years. And I was burned out. I was really burned out. Sometimes companies and corporations, they don't change with the times, and the environment can become toxic. So that's another con. And you don't have any control over that. You can't control the culture of the organization. One of the other pros that I feel to working in corporate America is that they are in control of the risk. So they are the ones that take on the risk. They're the ones that have to meet payroll deadlines. They're the ones that shoulder the brunt of the responsibility for the financials of the company. It's not you on a personal basis. It's not your personal money. So the company, may or may not do well because of your efforts, but overall, they manage the finances of the company. They manage their own debt, they manage their own assets, and they manage their own investments. You're not responsible personally, so you don't have any personal risk in terms of the finances for the organization. So that is a pro for sure. On the other side of that is, because you don't have any control in the professional dealings for their financials, if the financials are bad and if they fail, then you could then in turn be fired. That's a con, obviously. Another pro, I think I mentioned this before, but another pro is that you have work hours. You have 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and when you get there, you work. When you leave there, you leave the work. At least that's ideally what's supposed to happen. Obviously, a lot of times that does not happen. I know with me, I took my work outside of work. I worked all the time. It was crazy. The good thing is, you get paid time off, you get PTO, you get vacation, you get time that they're paying you that you're not actually working. So that is a pro, right? They're paying you when you're not there, you're on vacation, you're still getting paid. So that's a pro. But the other side of that is the con. They dictate when you can take those vacations, They dictate how many days you have off, how many PTO days you have off. Now, there are corporate holidays, obviously, that they would follow. So one of the cons with that is that you personally, your identity and your purpose internally in that company, in terms of working for that company, can be opposite of what the company thinks they should be, right? So that's one of the cons for me. That was one of the cons for me, is that my ideals and my purpose in life was not aligned with recruiting and being in HR anymore. I shifted, and I'm not exactly sure when that happened. I think it was, moving here to Georgia and really taking a journey into my faith and really trying to understand who I am and who God is making me into. That really showed me that the values of the company that I previously worked for were no longer my values. I wasn't trying to chase the money anymore. I wasn't really trying to do as much as they wanted me to do anymore. I was ready for a change. I think I just burnt out, But there were people in the organization who had those golden handcuffs, right? So we had the same thoughts where they were like, yeah, you know, this company is really not the same. I don't have the same, you know, purpose and ideas, but they had the golden handcuffs where they were being paid really, really well. So they were like, I can't leave, because you become a slave to that job because they're paying you so well. They're taking care of your family. They're taking care of your livelihood and your life. But maybe you just don't have the same ideals and values as the organization. So you feel trapped. So that would be a con. Another pro in corporate America is that it is resume credibility, right? So once you are with a company for a certain amount of time, it builds your resume. It makes it so much easier to leave that company and go to another company because they had a brand name, and the new company can then check your references. It just gives you a lot more credibility. Oh, you worked for Chick-fil-A, right? Or, oh, you worked for Delta, things like that. They have that name brand, and it gives you the credibility to then go with your resume that you've built up, having experience from that company, to another company, right? Because maybe you took advantage of the professional development, or maybe you took advantage of the certifications, right? So all of those things will transfer into another job, and that is a major pro. That is a major pro for corporate America versus entrepreneurship. That is a major. And then, obviously one of the cons for working in corporate America is that you have to go into the office, right? I don't know where your office is. I mean, it might be that the office moved and now is, 40 miles from where you live, right? But you don't have any say in that. If they're requiring you to go into the office and you live 40 miles away, you still have to go into the office. And with Atlanta traffic, that's gonna take you 2.5 hours. So obviously that's a con. You don't have any say in the location.
Hey family, I'm so sorry, my battery died. So that's the end of today's video on the pros and cons of corporate America. Come back tomorrow and we'll be talking about the pros and cons of entrepreneurship. Thanks for joining us in Kiya's Closet. Bye.